Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi, and today we are going to be talking about the one and only jump-in tier list. That's right, Foundations is bringing along with it multiple jump-in packs that will be part of this event moving forward for, you guessed it, 5 full years, if not longer. That makes these extremely interesting for us budget players. And if you're used to this being a midweek Magic event, well, you're not wrong, but Wizards has decided to change things up. I'm hoping it's a positive, and we're going to find out together. But for now, let's take a look. But before we get into all that, I'm sure you know that the 5-year Foundation set in Standard is going to change a lot of things, not just in Standard, but in particular for budget and free-to-play players. What you may not know is you can make a big impact around here by making a funding choice through our Patreon. Whether you're just helping keep the lights on every month, or you're making contributions towards specific content or hardware upgrades, just know all the Patreon funding goes back into the community. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, now right. Normally on a philosophical level, I would tell you that time is an illusion made by clock manufacturers in order to sell more clocks, but some recent changes to the flow of Standard have brought me to the conclusion that we really need to account for the temporal changes of particular sets, namely Foundations, Balloon Burrow, and Dustborn, when we're looking at assets built around those sets. In particular, Foundations is going to be around in Standard for 5+ years, raising its relative value compared to other Standard assets. Balloon Burrow and Dustborn, on the other hand, we have recently come to the realization that those are going to rotate out earlier than expected, and also lowering their relative value in a similar fashion. So when it comes to jump-in this season, we can expect that most of the Foundation sets are going to be Tier 1 or Tier 2, based simply on the longevity. I mean, getting almost 2 points here just for that is quite a big impact. We really don't expect any of those Foundation sets to be in that Tier 3. On the other hand, when it comes to jump-in packs for Balloon Burrow and Dustborn, we can almost universally expect that each one of those packs has gone down a tier. The main exception being the ones that were really good, i.e. Mono White Rabbits, still remains a Tier 1 deck and very much the basis of a constructed deck all its own. And the last thing to really keep in mind regarding this jump-in season for the Foundations Premier release is there is no only Foundations Midweek Magic event currently on the calendar, and even if they add one later in the season, by that time we will have open packs and drafted and have plenty of cards in our collection to tackle it without having to prioritize our jump-in picks this season for going highly on the Foundations only packs. When we look at the Foundations jump-in set and its effect on the jump-in event overall, really the effect is less than I expected. The average deck score went from 4.8 now to a 5.0, meaning it only had about a 5% impact. Standard deviation stayed around 2.0, and that's more or less what we expect. And even a person like me that plays, well, a pretty fair amount of jump-in each and every season, I still have a 97% chance of getting something valuable on my very first jump-in event for this set. And, well, that's always really good. When I'm doing evaluations, I like to use what I lovingly refer to as the Eastwood rating system, breaking your choices down into 3 easy categories: the good, the bad, and the ugly. In order for a choice to get a rating of good, it's got to be above the moving average of all of the available choices. The bad, however, is actually still generally a playable option, so to speak, being within 1 standard deviation mathematically of having been a good choice. The ugly, however, is everything else that is left. It's not good. It's not even bad. These are the ugly choices that generally aren't even worth our time. And we only had 2 jump-in packs change category here. The first being Outlaws slipped from good to the Tier 2 bad, simply because so many of the new decks were good. And also Manifest, i.e. the blue-green Manifest Dread deck, did slip also from good to Tier 2 because of that time differential now apparent in the Duskmourn packs. Much as we anticipated, there were no ugly decks found within the Foundation subset. Very much to be expected given the time differential that it has for the remainder of this budget year. The interesting thing here is only 13 ugly decks, and that's out of the 73 total jump-in packs, so just under 14% in ugly. Pretty solid statistic there. And surprise, surprise, that means the majority of our brand new Foundations jump-in packets were in the good category. And in fact, we're going to start by talking about 5 monocolor tribal themes that went on in here. The first is white hares as well as white cats, mono red goblins, mono green elves, and mono black zombies. All of these are solid picks and will help you start building up those tribal decks very quickly and easily. And Foundations wasn't done yet. They've got another 4 good decks. That's right, 9 out of 11 in total. Blue-white flyers, white-green strong, i.e. +1/+1 counters matter. The UB Threshold deck, which fits pretty nicely into some existing options, as well as a mono blue draw 2 packet. And of course that means the category 2, the bad decks but still playable, is hardly worth talking about, but we're gonna. The red-green growth, i.e. powers matters, in this case 4 or more, as well as the black-red Raiders pack, both within less than a point of being in the good category, so it really wouldn't take much of a change over the next 5 years in standard for these to maybe join their brethren a little further north. And just as a special note, when it comes to the mono red goblins deck, I couldn't help but notice there were only 4 packets out of the 11 that featured a mythic rare, which is kind of unusual. And also the alternates on this, Dropkick Bomber is 40% and Cranko Mob Boss is 40%, which leaves a floating 20% undeclared. I suspect there is an undeclared mythic rare available in this pack. So if you see it before I do, by all means comment it down below the video and we can update the spreadsheet. Thanks, we're all stronger together. And just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that if you follow the link down into the doobly-doo over to my Patreon, you can find the complete spreadsheet where I track not only all of the scores, but also how many copies of the rares that I have in my individual collection. And you can make a copy of the file and make it all your own. Maybe you don't like the colors, maybe you disagree with me on some of the evaluations. Whatever you want to do with it is just darn fine. The entire concept of jump-in is to take all the difficulty out of deck building, and really it couldn't be much simpler because you're just making 2 choices. Your first choice, you're going to be shown 3 packs or mini decks, and with that you're going to be given an image that is a little bit of a clue, a name which is generally your biggest clue as to what the theme of the deck is, and of course there's always an indication of the color associated with that pack. And all you do, if you scroll over each of the decks, it will also show you a key card to show you a little bit more mechanically what is going on thematically with that deck. And all you do is click on the one that you want, and then down in the bottom right hand corner you hit confirm pack to lock in that first choice. At that point, the screen updates and it shows you whatever your first choice was on the very far left-hand side of the screen, and then it's going to present to you 3 additional choices, the idea here being just the same. You get the same context clues and you click on and confirm pick for your second choice. At that point, the decks are going to shuffle together. Some fairly appropriate land is going to be added. Although, honestly, the land algorithm that they use is not always awesome. And at that point, you have a playable deck for the event. When I'm doing evaluations, I like to use what I lovingly refer to as the Eastwood rating system, breaking your choices down into 3 easy categories: the good, the bad, and the ugly. In order for a choice to get a rating of good, it's got to be above the moving average of all of the available choices. The bad, however, is actually still generally a playable option, so to speak, being within 1 standard deviation mathematically of having been a good choice. The ugly, however, is everything else that is left. It's not good. It's not even bad. These are the ugly choices that generally aren't even worth our time. I arrive at these scores by evaluating the individual cards in the pack, both the rares and mythics, as well as the commons and uncommons. Secondly, I like to look at how well the pack theoretically supports any existing budget deck archetypes that we've been developing. And of course, we try and factor in if this packet helps you unlock additional formats like Brawl or Historic. So now let's talk about this season's packs and how it affected the pool overall. And before we go, while every member of this community is important to me, I just wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to those patrons providing financial support and keeping the Stronghold from being a complete financial black hole. And of course, let me leave you with some suggestions for your next step here on the channel.